Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari, and today I want to tell you about a very important topic which people don't usually care much about, which is the difference between impersonalism and personalism. What is that? It's a very important topic in yoga and the whole Indic tradition, but people tend to not know much about it. So I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of it now and also explain why most people seem not to care about it, even though it is actually quite important. So first, a brief explanation. So what is impersonal? Well, the proper name for it is Advaita Vedanta. Advaita. Vedanta is what we're doing here in this channel in general. Vedanta, Veda means knowledge, Anta means end of. So the topmost, the end of knowledge, the supreme knowledge is a word. So there's this term Vedanta. And Vedanta is used for this ultimate spiritual knowledge from the Vedas. Because of course the Vedas talk about all sorts of things, right? And the Vedas are vast literature from, distant past, beyond registers of history. So it covers everything. And of course a big focus of the ancient Veda Samhitas were the worship of the demigods, what I call this like a mundane religion of worshiping the nature gods, like you saw in ancient Greece and Nordic stuff, Thor and that kind of stuff, like worshiping Zeus, Thor, the Romans, Jupiter, that kind of stuff. So a lot of it is that stuff. So those are the Vedas. But then the Vedanta, like the topmost, like the end of the, where does it reach? The topmost reach of the Vedas would be the spiritual path, yoga. So it would be the path of yoga, of enlightenment, of going beyond the nature gods and actually worshiping the Supreme Lord, attaining realization, attaining freedom from samsara, from birth and death, etc. So that's Vedanta. Now, so then in Vedanta, there are of course different schools of thought. And Advaita is the school of thought which started in the 8th century with Shankaracharya. So Shankaracharya was this very powerful, amazing personality. He really was an amazing personality because he was so advanced. Just like he was like a prodigy, from very early ages. It's this great spiritual master, very young. So it's very incredible personality. So he had a profound mark, and all of the whole Indian tradition, Indian philosophy is very powerful personality. But so from him though was established this Advaita idea. So what is Advaita? Dvaita is two. You still have the dual, the word dual from the Sanskrit, Dvaita. And then the A in front just means not dual. So Advaita means not two things. So what is he saying? What is impersonalism? What is Advaita? Well, the idea then is that there is something beyond the topmost, the last aspect of spirituality is something called the Brahman. Just a transcendental thing, energy, existence, Brahman. Now, so the impersonalist concept is that Brahman, this not defined, no detail, no individualization, no parts to it, just this energy, we can call it, well, now we'll start using Western terms, like this light, the divine light, God's energy, but no. But so this the ultimate aspect of God is just energetic. It's just the one thing with no details, no form, no body, no kingdom of God, nothing. It's just this one thing called the Brahman. Of course, the personalist, what later, the personalist concept is the Dvaita. So the Dvaita means that there are two things. There's soul and God. Advaita says, no. It's just the one thing. There's just Brahman. Now, of course, in the personalist concept, we understand that yes, God is a person, is a supreme person. There is a kingdom of God. The soul exists eternally, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, and the soul will eternally, live in union with God. That's the same concept, of course, you get also in Christianity and in Islam and Judaism. So the idea is that soul, God does exist, you exist, and you will live together in the kingdom of God. So that's the Vaishnava concept, that's the personalist concept. So you have the different abodes of God, like Vrindavan or Ayodhya, and then you can live, with the form of God. You have Ram and Sita, and then you can live with Krishna and Radha, or you would live with Lakshmi and Narayana and Vaikuntha. So these are actual kingdoms of God, and you will exist there as a soul eternally. So that's the personalist, that's the personalist concept. But the Advaita concept is like, no. That stuff is just, when you have an avatar, when Krishna comes or Ram comes, that's not really God. That's just like a manifestation of Brahman, but actually, the ultimate aspect of God is just the energy. So there isn't really like an eternal kingdom of God. Like that's just a thing, just so you kind of aim towards that. And in the impersonalist concept, they actually talk about devotion and bhakti. They talk about devotion, but only as a means to attain this realization that we are actually the same as God. To use their example, they say this, it's like you who you think you're a soul now, you consciousness, you're like a pot, you're like a bit of ocean water in a little ceramic pot. So the body is the ceramic pot. And what realization is taking that little pot over the ocean and you break the pot. You crush it, the pot ceases to exist, and then that little bit of ocean water that was in the little cup just merges with the ocean. There's no more, you can't talk about that. The little bit of water that was in that cup, you can't talk about it anymore because now it's been splashed over the ocean. It's merged, that's it, it's gone. And then they say, that's what you always were. You were always this little bit of ocean water thinking you were separate, but then you just had to merge with the ocean and you'll cease to exist. So, the personalists don't want to appreciate that at all. That's why the devotees hate that, because the devotees, they want to have a loving, eternal relationship with God. And for them, the concept of ceasing to exist is like spiritual suicide. It's like a crazy idea, like how will I love someone if I don't exist? And how will I love someone if the person I'm supposed to love, God, doesn't exist really? It's just like, no, it's not God. It's not really Krishna, Ram, or Jesus, or wherever you want to. It's not. It's just, there's just Brahman. It's just like a glowing effulgence of non-spirit, of non-material stuff, So that's why devotees hate the idea of impersonalism. So what you have in the tradition then, because it develops. So you like Madhavacarya in the 13th century, he came up with, no, it's got to be Dvaita. There's two separate things, completely separate, God and soul. But that idea wasn't actually very good. So we had a great, another great personality, Caitanya, Sri Krishna Caitanya, in the 14th century, in the 15th century, in the 1400s. And he comes up with the idea, no, you can't say it's really Dvaita. You can't really say that soul and God are totally different because, for example, we both exist. So that's something you have in common. You're both not material, so that's something you also have in common. So you can't just say it's the one thing because obviously God and soul are different. You can't say it's two things. So he came up with this little complicated term, Acintya, Bhedabheda, which means that it's Acintya, inconceivable, Bheda, the same, Abheda, different. So then it just joins up together, Acintya, Bhedabheda, because when you join the Sanskrit. Anyway, so it's inconceivably one and different. So it's neither just one, as Shankara said, it's neither just different, as Madhavacarya says, it's actually one and different. That really was like perfection. That's like, so that was the perfect explanation for the soul and God describing it to us. So we are one, but also different with God. So God eternally exists, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with His eternal forms and His eternal kingdom. And I exist eternally in my Swarupa, in my eternal spiritual form, and then I'll have my eternal relationship with God, with the Bhagavan form, which I worship. You know, if it's Ram, if it's Krishna, if it's Narayan, but I will have my eternal relationship, and you will have your eternal relationship, because you also exist eternally. Now, so these are actually very different concepts. So impersonalism, they're actually vastly different, but people don't seem to care. Why don't people care? Because my explanation for it is that when people are starting out, when you're just a crass materialist, well, most people, of course, are just crass materialists. They couldn't care less about anything related to spirituality, soul, and God. They just think it's all nonsense and useless, right? Most people, I was like that too, so I know exactly what that's like. So most people think it's just nonsense, right? So of course they don't care. I mean, what would they care? They would just like, yeah, whatever. So they don't care. But then what about the spiritualist, the person who's actually starting the spiritual path, you know, the seeker? Now what happens is when people have that first beginning, I just posted a video on this recently here on the channel, the 3 phases of the spiritual search, of your spiritual growth. So what happens in the beginning, you just kind of look around and everything seems very beautiful, because everything, there's lots of beauty everywhere in Judaism, Islam, in Christianity, yoga, Buddhism, African religions. I mean, wherever you look, there's wonderful things, right? It's all really nice. Anything is like wonderful. It's like what? Because it's elevating. It's bringing this light to your life. It's bringing meaning and light and opening your eyes to a completely new dimension of reality, which is transcendence, which is spirit. You're like just stuck in matter. You're walking out of the cave, you know? So you're in this dark cave of materialism, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, there's this whole world here for me. And then there's this beautiful concept of being a good person, Dharma. So being a good person, being truthful, being kind, being compassionate, being pure, being determined. So all these things, this is all Dharma. Dharma is so beautiful. And Dharma is kind of there everywhere. So if you're an Advaita Vedanta, you're super into Dharma. If you're a Krishna Bhakta, if you're a devotee, you're super into Dharma. So everybody's into Dharma. We all agree on Dharma. There's no question of that. So Advaita, Madhavacarya, Caitanya, it doesn't matter. Everybody's like, no, Dharma. Of course, Dharma. So Dharma is there, and it's the same for everyone. And of course, it's the same for Christians and Jews and Muslims. You know, it's like everybody wants Dharma. Dharma is non-negotiable, I explain. You know, you can hey, are you going to worship Jesus, Vaikuntha, Krishna? Okay, you have to choose your path. Or you're going to be an impersonalist. You have to choose your path. But Dharma is non-negotiable. Everybody has to do Dharma. There's no, it's crazy when you have somebody speaking of devotion in God and they're committing atrocities. That's the worst thing. I mean, it'd be better if they didn't speak about God and just committed atrocities. They would be more honest of them, because it's completely rubbish. The idea that somebody can worship God and commit atrocities. It's like, that makes no sense at all. So Dharma is so beautiful and bright that when you start out in the beginning, and this in the beginning could be like, decades of beginning, it's such a bright thing. This Dharma is so beautiful that you can't see beyond that brightness. It's so bright that you can't see the stuff, the details beyond that brightness, beyond the brilliant glow of Dharma. You can't see, it's like, what? God in person, who cares? Dharma is so beautiful. You know, that's what happens. So people are like, oh, who cares? Jesus, Rama, who cares? Well, you can worship whatever you worship. It doesn't make any difference. Oh yeah, impersonalism. But oh, so people don't care either way because they're just still in the first phase of their spiritual journey and just, you know, absorbing the beauty, because it is beautiful, and the beauty of the brightness of Dharma, you know, the non-negotiable, obvious, no questions, necessity for everyone to take to Dharma. So then they don't see these finer details of spiritual life. But once you have gotten accustomed to the brightness of Dharma, which means you are now very dharmic. Once you've, okay, now I am dharmic. I have transitioned my life from being a selfish, you know, spaced out materialist. Now I do have a dharmic life. I'm a dharmic, like you're authentically. You've situated yourself in the light long enough. Then your eyes have got used to it, then you can really start seeing beyond Dharma. Okay, what's beyond? Oh, so now there really is there really are different spiritual paths. You know, there really makes a difference if I worship Jesus, it makes a difference if I worship Rama, if I worship Krishna. They're not the same thing. And it's different worshiping Rama to worshiping, you know, Lord Narayana. These are different paths. These are different paths. Oh, it's all the same thing. God is one. Well, yes, but no. It's actually different. It's a different path with different results. And I'm going to be using different practices to attain these different results. So then you can see these things once you're more advanced, once you've gone through the Dharma, once you've studied the traditions, then you can see, oh, this is actually quite different. I do have to choose. I should worry about. This is a big topic. And the topic between the impersonalists and the personalists, or, you know, the Dvaita and the, you know, the Dvaitas, or at least the Acintya, Bhedabheda, Tattvas, the difference is humongous. It's huge. It's like really important, and they're like, and the great spiritual masters along, like, you know, hundreds of centuries and centuries, they're debating these things, because this is like everything else they agree on. I mean, they're like, yeah, of course you have to be dharmic, of course. Everything else is like, duh. Yeah, of course you have to meditate and be pure and be truthful and compassionate. Everything else is like, yeah, of course. So this is the detail. So they would have these great debates. So these debates have been going on for centuries. These were big topics. These were like important discussions these people would have, because it's really important. It really makes a difference. So if you're like in this phase now, you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. Trust me, it does matter, and you should look into it. And it's better that you, even if you're still in the first phase of, like, you know, getting dharmic and the brightness of Dharma, but it's better to focus. You know, of course, I'm going to say it's better because it's my path, but it's better that you understand the concept of the personal concept of God, the personalist path, the, you know, path of personalism, and not be swayed into impersonalism, because it really will help you advance more in the path. It will make you progress further. And of course, once you've progressed through, you know, like the brightness of Dharma, you'll see that it's actually the way to go, and it's what Krishna is actually saying in Bhagavad Gita, and of course it's what's said in Bhagavad Purana from beginning to end. So that's it. So that's a brief understanding of what is impersonalism, and why devotees hate it, and why most people seem not to care. Either way, let me know if you have any questions. You know, just leave your comments below and I will answer. I'll see them. And have a rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love.